Tape deck rolling.
Yep.
What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode 452. My name is Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by...
Bro.
Now I guess I'll go in and piss on the fish.
Yeah, man.
Not that you do that. Let's be clear.
No,
You're not doing
no.
that for real.
No,
Oh,
not
no.
I, John.
Not John. Not the
Never.
John I know.
No.
Never.
Well, no. I'm not
Well,
supposed to
I
say
never
when.
say never, I
It's
guess.
that kind of thing that you wait you wait until a few more people are in their graves, and then you write your memoir, and then you reveal which times you
memoir.
pissed on the fish.
Memoir. You're so fancy, John.
Right.
Forgot
Well,
how fancy
how
you
else
were.
would you say it? Would you say memoir or I feel
I mean,
like
because I'm basic and trashy, I guess
I've
memoir is the
only
way I
heard
say
it
it.
that way. Yeah.
See, I feel like
John,
I'm
Ronald and I are from a different ilk, cut from a different cloth, I guess. I don't know.
No, I think when you say memoir, it's better. When I say memoir, I feel like there's some southern thing that's hitting the war, and it's like memoir.
War.
I get that.
Down
so
by
I'm
the
try-
reservoir.
I'm trying to cut it off by saying memoir, because I don't want to get stuck. in that.
Hey, don't change a thing about it. You sound amazing.
But if you're from Alabama, you find yourself, if you say a syllable like "or," you are literally falling into a tar pit that might suck you down and slow you down because it's so hot down there that like the roads heat up and it's tar. So like you might get stuck just walking down the street. So you have to be careful with your consonants at the end of vowels.
Note it.
So even there, vowels. There's a threat of like another syllable creeping in there somehow.
Vowels.
Vowels.
Vowels. An athlete.
Athlete.
He's an athlete. Is he?
Sometimes you want to throw. Is that a thing?
You get the little F in there. You get the F, like the athlete.
Yeah, man.
Now that we've gone through how to say things and not say things,
Yes.
which
Memoir.
say it the way it feels, baby. Don't
Yes.
think about us.
You know what they say when someone mispronounces a word? It just means they learned it by reading.
by reading or reading?
Yeah, reading, reading.
I was gonna say, do you say reading? Reading, is that an Alabama thing too?
I go out reaving at the end of the. I don't even know. Zoom like slurs things so much that I'm not even sure which wrong syllable or which wrong sound I think you're hearing. So I don't even know. But I've heard both reaving and reaving. But no, I was talking about reading. The old books.
All of the above work. We'll connect the dots in the sentence.
The old
All of
words,
the above.
words
Pages
on
turning,
pages.
yeah.
Yes, that kind of reading.
Very good. All right. Well, today's episode, we're going to get into Ronald's required viewing pick here in a moment. We're going to maybe talk about a couple shows, couple movies any of us have seen over the last week. Nothing major, but I think, what was the other topic you wanted to? Oh, Alien Earth trailer came
Alien
out
Earth
today when
trailer,
we're recording.
yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that right after we get to the required viewing. Ronald, you want to do a little intro into your pick and kick us off?
Absolutely. Danny DeVito, 1989. He directed a adaptation of the novel War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
That
War of
movie
the-
would be cool.
I would be. War of the Roses, which is an intense story about a married couple that really their marriage takes a turn at some point and they start hating each other and it gets intense. And it's a combination of humor and it's a dark humor movie, but it goes in between like really serious and really sad and comical kind of
Yeah.
pretty quickly from scene to scene.
It does.
And it's one of those things. It's a pretty interesting feat that I think Danny DeVito really pulls off. Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas are incredible in this movie, and Danny DeVito also very cool.
Incredible.
As he
He's so
made
good.
this movie,
He's
man.
really good. Like I actually had to kind of. Yeah, I'm sure Nikki loves my little commentary, but I had to like go bother her and talk about how good Danny DeVito is. Like, just what a good actor. Like, we love him for being so up for anything and
Yeah.
being kind of like crazy and doing whatever nutty thing they want him to do. But you see him in, especially around this time, but even earlier than this, when he really was just like this actor that was catching notice. He's very, very good. He's like
Yeah.
he brings such a weird reality to his characters. He just delivers lines extremely well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like,
Yeah.
like the wraparound is one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Yeah.
which is not always the case with that kind of thing.
He's having a moment right now too. He's going kind of the actors on actor stuff. What is
Yeah,
it,
I've
Variety
been
or somebody
really
does?
enjoying that stuff. I've been really
Yeah, he
enjoying
was in there
everyone that
with
they're posting.
Colin Farrell.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's a
Those two were
great.
paired together, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger and his son Patrick were
Yeah.
paired together, and
Dave
they're
Chappelle, right?
well. I'm saying in the Schwarzenegger one, Danny like interrupts their thing
Oh
to like
no.
say hi to Arnold, and it's like a whole love fest. It's just fucking adorable.
Oh, that's
That's
really
great.
cool.
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
see
he's
that
he's
one.
definitely getting a lot of love on that like film Twitter because of these interviews and his just like he was just like I love Kathleen I love Michelle. Who's your Catwoman? He's like, oh, Zoe Kravitz. Oh, she's amazing. Mine was Michelle Pfeiffer. He's like, I was in love with her basically. Like he was just like basically saying I couldn't focus. Like he's like, I don't know how you handled yours, but he's like, it was a good job to have and a real challenge to face. And I was just like, I love this man so much. And you can see
I
like
didn't.
Colin like trying to guide him back into an appropriate
Yeah.
Yeah,
conversation. And he's
He's
like,
like, I put on extra cologne. I did all
yeah,
this stuff. He's like, all right,
literally,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
literally.
like, yeah, yeah,
I
okay.
love it. I
But she must
love
have
it.
been really nice, right? Like incredible actress. And he's like,
Yeah, I
right,
no,
love it.
right.
but she was so beautiful. I was having a hard time really functioning around her.
Oh
She's so beautiful.
God.
It's like,
Nice,
man.
nice. You want to talk about nice? She smelled nice. Um, no, I
So
think
good.
that but I do think, yeah, maybe, yeah, you want to keep a guy like that from going off too half cocked. You never know
Yeah.
what he'll say. But I do think that it's interesting. I know that it's the Penguin connection why they would pair
Right.
him with
Right.
Colin Farrell, but it is also cool that it's like that's recognition for Danny DeVito as an actor to me to
Yeah.
say that he's in this conversation as
Oh
an
yeah.
actor and not just as a personality or even as an actor director, whatever we want to call him. But this is also like a very stylish film, and I think that
It
it's
is.
a combination of a throwback. Like I think between this and Throw Mama from the Train, which was his prior film just 2 years prior, there's clearly like a Hitchcockian kind of sensibility that a certain kind
Yeah.
of camera work flourish. I didn't even look to see who was the cinematographer on this, but it had a kind of Barry Sonnenfeld almost quality as far as like the way the camera moves around and the way certain transitions happen. I just
Right.
thought it was a really cool film to watch on top of the emotional stuff, which it is a movie that is so heightened in its style that you almost don't get the drama, the effects of the drama that's happening there. But you said it, Ronald. This movie is sad. Like viewed from a certain angle, this movie is very sad. And it felt very real too, in the sense
Yeah.
that yes, these two people are at war with each other, but she wants it way more than he does when it comes to this issue of divorce. She really wants to end this thing they have going on.
Yeah.
He's the complacent one who would continue with what they have going on, who doesn't care about the fact that it's kind of rotting from within because
Mm.
I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know Ronald you said you hadn't seen this before, right?
No, but I'd seen Life before,
Oh,
and it is very much
Oh
very
no.
similar in this
Oh
way.
no. Yeah.
Yes, I'm like, what? I'm like, I was thinking that it was gonna be like light version, but it's honestly
Yeah.
nothing about this is heightened. Nothing about
I
this is
think it's
Mm.
heightened.
only the
Mm.
tone of the movie
I,
that's heightened. The story
not
is
even
not
the
heightened at
tone.
all.
Not even the tone. I know it sounds crazy, but when I've had this is I'm not even speaking personally from this one. Personal experience watching two people divorce very
Right.
recently. None of this is exaggerated. The only thing that's maybe exaggerated is that maybe people thought that people didn't do these sorts of things before. But I've heard worse things happening between people. There's nothing like I thought that I'd be like, oh man, this feels so different than it feels so detached from man, it is so specific, especially the way that people are kind of like people are a little more uh outward with stuff on social media.
Mhm.
So, people will be like, hey, I'm outside of this guy's car. He cheated on me. I'm gonna burn his
Oh,
car up. So
right.
like this is actually less heightened than now because people are kind of a little more performative now than they were back then. Because this was just like two
That's
people
true.
who are losing their shit in front of people. But I'm telling you, as a person who is close to this situation in a way, nothing about this felt exaggerated. I felt like I was watching just a reality TV show. Besides the idea, like, I don't have enough money to blow somebody's car up, right?
Right.
Like,
Well, I guess that's the kind of the thing I'm talking about is like the succession of things that happen and the way that it escalates has like a farcical element to it. The destruction of the car, those are things people do. But the way the car is destroyed, that it's done with like a monster truck on a public on a street, you know, and that his car
Yeah.
is not just a normal car. His car is this super antique collector's car. You know, so like it's the juxtaposition there. The whole thing with the woof, you know, her making him think that she fed him his dog. Like that's the kind of thing that you hear about
that's
people
crazy.
doing, but the way the movie presents it, and this is where I'm really talking about it's almost like a fabulistic tone, is the way that it almost seems like a story that could be true or not true in the way that Danny DeVito's character tells it. And the way that he says,
Yeah.
I did what I could to keep it out of the papers. This could almost be a cautionary tale he's worked up to tell this guy. But I like
Sure.
the way the movie plays with if you want to see it as all true and not exaggerated, which again I agree with you, Ronald, like there's nothing that there's no individual thing that happens that is like not something that you could find an instance of somebody doing. And when you talk about worse, yeah, people kill each other.
Kill each other, man.
But like the way that you see that if we are to take it all as true, Gavin is like really sweet on the phone with his wife. Like I love that it makes him like a better husband maybe because he's picturing not wanting his life to fall apart this way. And I actually think it's interesting that the lesson of the movie is not just work things out and stay with your spouse, which is like could be bad advice.
No.
Right.
Or be generous. When you're
Yeah.
saying goodbye, be generous.
I do think that is so cool. That's such a cool. I was not expecting Danny DeVito's character to say that. He's like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna do it, just be as generous as till something till you like till you vomit at night or something like that or something
Yeah.
like
Well, what he said. Yeah.
yeah. You know, it's that's something. I think that's one thing that I took out of it that didn't really make me feel sad in the end. It's like,
That there's hope that
yeah,
you can at least do that, even if it's going bad.
you,
You can at
yeah.
least be as generous as possible in that situation.
I've always admired, like, I think what I took from it is like, even if you two are hating each other in the moment, that it comes out of love. It surfaces from some hurt from loving somebody so much and things just not going awry. Like
Yeah.
on the surface, you may see the situation between Michael Douglas and her wanting to look at that, her wanting him to look at that contract is not a big deal,
Mm.
but he's being very shitty with her about
So
it.
dismissive.
And then he's like, yo, your little contract. It's like
Yeah, when he
on,
said that.
on a real level, like, you know, that adds up to a person. You have 50 of those things happen. You know, the first time doesn't feel quite as bad. So the 30th time is like, man, this is crazy. So wait, the 50th time, you're trying to punch him in the face. And I gotta say this,
I
man.
love when she punches him when he like it kind of dares her to punch him.
Yeah, he does it.
And she
She does it like
falls off.
hard. I do like how athletic she is in this movie, man.
I always forget that subplot, but it pays off that she's athletic. Like
Yeah.
we see her jump off the floor in that one scene with Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
And later when Michael Douglas doesn't even know, he's telling Danny DeVito like what you would have had if you had taken her off, or you know, he doesn't
Right.
even know that this
Right.
happened. And he said she's a gymnast. And Danny DeVito loses his train of thought.
Yeah.
And his face. And then later when she's like jumping onto the chandelier, like she shimmies around. I don't know. It's just that is such a cool, funny bit. Even this, the funniest is when she goes down the stairs and then she goes into like a perfect cartwheel for like
Yeah.
part of going down the stairs. Like that kind of visual stuff was really that shows you that little thread of farcical humor that is coming into this.
Yeah,
That
for
is
sure.
a true thing. It's one of her coping mechanisms, but it adds to her character so much of like, why is she so athletic? Like who trained her? Like, was she a dancer? What was it in her past? Maybe I missed it if they explained it, but I love that it's just a thing we accept about her is that she's agile.
I do like the sprinkles of it throughout the movie too, because when they went on that they met, she did something kind of athletic where she kind of did that and spread her legs really far. And he was just like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Um, there is something really cool about how sensual her character is in it and still kind of spiraling out at the same time.
Oh, she's so in control. I mean, there's something. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm speaking now of Kathleen Turner's like super powerful screen presence. You
Just
know,
Yeah.
dominates the screen.
like
Yeah.
She
Michael
does, man.
Douglas is not a guy who doesn't dominate
Right.
scenes, and he is swallowed whole by her in
He's
every moment of this movie.
he's really small on the screen, man. It's
And
weird.
I think it's one of those times where you see an actor and you go, okay, he's doing something a little more interesting than you think because he is like even in his coolest moments in this movie, he's kind of a dork. Like he's
Yeah.
got the sort of
Yeah.
the glasses and the haircut and the shirt. It's like we're supposed to see that he's like not this badass that he thinks he is, and he's not this eccentric cool lawyer that he thinks he is with his fancy old car. Like, and he's kind of a stuffed shirt in that way. That is, it's just funny to see him play. It's a very comic character for him in that sense. He's the butt of the joke throughout most of the movie. I mean, in a way that you do feel for him in that moment when he shows up to the dinner party in the like the t-shirt with the top hat and stuff. That is fantastic.
It is so good.
But it's only by
Great
going
scene.
low that he only wins any points by just being willing to go low. Like at
Yes.
no point does he actually score a point in any point of
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
dissolution. It's really interesting.
Yes, it feels like a really special movie. I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad I picked it. It affected me pretty deeply, but I thought it
I
was
wondered about that. Not to get too into
yeah.
it, since you brought it up already. I wondered like, oh wait, is this a good choice or not?
No, I specifically chose it because I want to run toward the fire. But I'm just that sort of person. But what I really did want to see was, I saw, Death to Smoochie tackled a lot of really heavy stuff. And I
Yeah.
was wondering how he was going to handle divorce. It's like, how is this? And then
Yeah.
the remake doesn't even look like it feels like this sort of tone. Like it feels a little more like yuppie-ish. This still, even with these people that are wealthy, still feels a little different. Like it feels like almost like Mortal Kombat at some point. Like two people like squaring up and really like right, trying to beat the
Well, don't you
brains.
think? Don't you think yuppie-ish is what people were reaching for in the '80s, and now we see it a little differently? It's almost
For sure.
quaint.
Yeah.
How much what these people want is like the job and the nice house and the nice car and the collection of figurines, and it's like they're desperately trying to carry forward like a version of living right that was like set for them. Like maybe she's a little bit more of a free spirit than he is, but that kind of yuppie fantasy is not a very rebellious fantasy. It's
Yeah,
an interesting
yeah.
thing, and it's like we've kind of aged out of it, but in some ways this movie looks, in some ways these people have an incredibly opulent life by today's standards
sure.
because
Yeah.
they
Sure.
live in a big house and they have money for collectibles and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's interesting how like that has almost become kind of quaint again, even how I think he's meant to seem like a striver, not like a guy who's really really wealthy.
Right, right.
And I also love how Gavin, Danny DeVito's character, is a total sleazebag. Which again, if it is a parable, it's part of the parable. Is that earlier he was a guy who's getting a foot job at a dinner party.
Yeah.
And later he's a guy who's like being real sweet about talking to his wife on the phone and making sure that I don't know if you noticed at the very end of the movie as the credits are rolling, he's like, "All right, love you, sweetie. I'll be home soon." Like
Yeah,
you get the
yeah,
sense that
yeah.
he's. They could have even played that up more, but I feel like Gavin himself has a little interesting story.
Yeah, yeah. Really
Yeah, I
good
think
movie, man.
that's like it's a interesting point mentioning the Death to Smoochie, or even even Thermometer from the Train, like
Yeah.
just kind of how dark these studio comedies
Yeah.
Yeah.
are,
Even
which is
Matilda
not a
has a bit of that Roald Dahl darkness in it.
yes,
And
yeah,
then
like,
Hoffa is inherently kind of a dark story.
yeah, and like to give that kind of budget with the star power, especially these two in that time. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
these
totally.
are huge stars, and and I mean, and I feel like watching it again recently, like I was like showing Aaron the trailer when we were gonna watch it, and it is kind of wild just to see how cruel it still is.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
after everything we've seen in between it, or at our
Yeah.
respective points in life, and of all the different kinds of films that we watch, to think about the like a movie like this, the DNA is kind of in a lot of movies that we've seen in between then and now, and even movies that we've seen before this. But when you think of movies about like with these two, like Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, like this kind of being like another film that you associate there, but like this one is like really cruel,
It's
and
mean
it's
as
it's
hell,
very
man.
dark, and it's still very funny, and it has a lot of it's just the performances are so good. But I think that's what really stood out to me on the rewatch was like that this was a huge studio comedy,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
with
yeah,
some big stars involved, in front of, behind the camera, production, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that that's what made it onto the screen, and was a success.
A
Like
huge
it's
hit. Yeah.
it's wild to think about that, and like the place that this kind of film, even with a remake coming out, like Ronald said, um, like what this kind of movie really isn't even made anymore, let
right.
alone released theatrically and finding like a big piece of success like this had. So it's kind of that's really was the reminder to me on the rewatch, was like, wow, like this was a huge film with huge stars, pretty cruel, and is kind of like not done anymore. Like
Yeah,
it's so wild to get that perspective when we do some of these required viewing picks that are from the 80s and maybe even early 90s. Because these stars and a lot of these films, like these stars are still around,
yeah,
doing impactful work in a lot of cases. Uh, but to kind of see them at maybe the arguably the height of their power is a really fun reminder of like what a star was in the 80s, what
yeah,
kind of movie was still a huge hit in the 80s.
yes.
But yeah, this was a really fun one to rewatch, and I'm actually curious to see the remake. Like
Me too.
I love Olivia Colman. I like the trailer. I think it's pretty good, but I'm kind of curious as to the tone, and I don't know who wrote or directed the remake. I only saw the trailer a couple times, but yeah, I'm game to check it out. I mean, I'd be curious what the current take on this kind of story or this material looks like in 2025. But um,
Yeah. This is very legitimizing for Danny DeVito as a director. I guess is on a budget of 26 million, making 160 million.
Yeah,
Um,
that's huge.
which I guess that's worldwide,
It
but
is,
still,
yeah,
that's
that
amazing
is.
for like you said, Steve, a big budget comedy, but also and big stars, but still kind of risky material.
for
And
sure.
at this time, I knew them from the Romancing the Stone films, Romancing the Stone, and the sequel, The Jewel of the
Jordan,
Nile. And
yeah,
I guess that was like earlier mid '80s, and maybe a few years later they come back with this. So these three actors we have already associated with each other, and so this is a twist on movies where we're supposed to watch to see Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas like go off together, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
this is playing off of that dynamic. And yes, you're right, they both also were super, I mean, just magnetic stars at this point. It's pretty
totally.
crazy to picture that. She still pops up, and she's good when she pops up. But it's interesting how long he's been. Like even in this movie, he looks middle aged, and I feel like he's managed to hold on to playing. He was one of those guys who managed to hold on to playing like 40 somehow for like 50 years
Into
or
the
something.
early 2000s. Yeah,
yeah,
And still an actor who I really love to see when he pops up. But I mean, obviously he's you see him, he has to play his age now. But I think it's
yeah,
one of those guys who I think if you really stood back and looked at his career, you'd find that he takes a lot of chances. And he does not mind coming off like looking bad, And I think
yeah.
that's
yeah,
something that a
yeah.
lot of leading
I
men
dig that. Yeah,
don't have that quality of and sometimes like in this movie, I mean, he's outright like there's a couple scenes that are the most uncomfortable moments are the moments where it's like he's basically sexually assaulting her,
yeah,
and I feel like that plays a little differently now than maybe they intended then. And there's one moment where she says something to him on the stairs that I just don't think you would have a person say in a film now. She throws an F slur at him. But
That's right.
outside of that, I really feel like
I
the
laughed
movie.
so hard when she said that.
I just thought that moment was funny because it's showing that they've got these. That moment when he's like gleefully pointing out to Danny DeVito, showing him the floor plan, and then he ends by saying, "I've got more square footage than her," or whatever he says. So it's like
It's a weird layout of it. Yeah.
but it's like the way that he acts like he's winning, and he's actually, and Danny DeVito can see like, man, this is
It's getting out of hand.
right. Even when he's the pre-enlightenment Gavin, he can tell this is a bad idea.
I love in that scene when with that layout. I think doesn't he say like, "Have you shown her this?" or something like that. I was dying when his delivery of that line, or it's some variation to that effect. Danny DeVito is like, it's just like it's the wonderment of like, you're what? What are you doing?
And these, what does he say about the kitchen was tricky, but then we figured out time increments or whatever. Again, it's just very like there's not that world building is needed for a situation like this, but there's a lot of clever dialogue that suggests things that have happened before. Like for instance, at that dinner party when he won't let her tell a story, and then eventually just takes over and tramples over her. You can tell that he's done that to her many times before. And you don't know that the movie hasn't told you that he is, but just from her reactions, you can tell like this is like part of their lore. And she's had it tonight. Like we're witnessing the moment where she's had it. We're not witnessing the setup. The movie's not going to take time and gently show us there's problems in the perfect marriage. It's like we go from, oh, they hook up in this kind of sweet way to she spends all her money on a car for him when he's kind of being a jerk to their kids and, because he's busy with work. And then next thing you know, she hates him. And it's like, the movie does kind of yada, yada, yada that stuff. But I think seeing how clearly there's something funny and mysterious about the way that she just, as of today, can't stand the way he breathes. And she's done, that feels very true, kind of to your point, Ronald. That feels very much like what really happens in a relationship. So yeah, despite being a dark comedy, it's also a drama in that sense that it does, kind of accurately convey the kind of the coldness that can arrive between two people.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I don't think we're ever allowed to see them as like a happy couple, really, though, because the second we meet them, Danny DeVito has said those bastards didn't stand a chance,
Yep.
Yeah.
So like even in that early part where you might be charmed by the way they meet and hook up, like, well, this is just the part where they like each other.
Yeah.
But she was great. It made me think about other movies of hers that I either haven't watched in a long time or have never seen. So maybe on a future required viewing, we'll get deeper into the Kathleen Turner.
Maybe a little less love for this one, but I feel like Serial Mom is the local favorite.
Yeah. Definitely the local favorite.
She's so good in that. Cool, man. All right, great pick. My pick now, yes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I have a new movie. I'm going with another I'm going with a newer film that's available digitally. I was like watching a couple videos recently on I think it was on TikTok. There's a couple guys I follow. We're going through a couple lists of like movies from the last year that I really like that no one has said a single word about. I was like, okay, tell me what they are, please, because I'd like to find them and watch them. And the one that came up there was a bunch from his list that like I have on my watch list now, but the one that stood out to me mainly because of the cast is a 2025 release called The Assessment. This is a movie with Elizabeth Olsen, Alicia Vikander, and Himesh Patel. I'll read the synopsis real quick. In the near future, where parenthood is strictly controlled, a couple's 7-day assessment for the right to have a child unravels into psychological nightmare. So it's flagged as kind of like a psychological drama, sci-fi, dystopian type thing. Feels like maybe a Black Mirror episode or an episode of The Twilight Zone, something like that. But I love the cast. I love that it's available for anybody who wants to check it out digitally. Rental is like only a couple bucks. It's on all the platforms. But yeah, it's called The Assessment. And we'll talk about it next week.
Awesome. Cool. That was one that was, passed across my radar at some point, and then I just completely forgot about it.
So, I know. That's what happens, man.
I'm glad you brought it back in.
Cool.
You caught that one trying to escape.
Get back here. I scorpioned it.
So yeah, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the Alien Earth trailer, and then I think we'll get Steve's thoughts on Mission Impossible, and then at the very end of all that, the three of us can talk a little bit more spoilery about the end of that movie and what we think it means, and just get into some of the things that do or don't happen in that film. We've given it enough time. You folks have had time to go see it, yeah. So Alien Earth trailer. This is like not the first look we've gotten at this series, but it's the best look for sure, and the one that's the most like tying together what I've seen in a couple of publicity shots with the information that's been revealed. Like this really sets up the show, I think, pretty well. Like after this trailer, I had a pretty clear idea of both how this fits into an Alien kind of story as a lover of that franchise, and also how this might give us some things that are different. And it looks cool. I love Noah Hawley's work on the Fargo series. I loved his work on the Legion series. Even though that series gets pretty wild visually, it's very interesting and creative. So I'm just ready for... Like, I saw somewhere where he said, I would think if you're a fan of any of the Alien movies and you're thinking that a show set in that world would be cool, that I have tried to satisfy that. Like he just basically said he thinks he's done a valid and good entry.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, that guy with his storytelling skills and his track record, I'm pretty convinced. But the trailer helped. How did you feel when you saw it, Ronald? And how much did you know about this concept before seeing the trailer? Had you read some of the little facts that have been?
I read some of the little facts. So I have a pet peeve, but I'm gonna say the trailer looks incredible. I feel like I'm watching the same Alien thing over and over again. There's always a person in a room. They're like, man, these are containment systems. Why are they
What are
open?
they containing? Why are they open?
Why are they open? In the water every time. It's like I've seen it like 4 times in the past like 10 years. And Romulus was really recent. So I saw that exact same scene with that black dude mirrored like a year ago. And I think there's something to it happening the same way every time. And it's almost like it can be solved. This thing is a thing, this is an issue. This keeps happening in different places, and different time, different settings. But it looks gorgeous. The set designs look out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Actors look like they're just having fun in this world. I'll watch the hell out of this, man.
I know what you're saying, Ronald. I think sometimes there's a beauty in the simplicity of that imagery, and that they can stick to it.
Yeah.
It's almost part of the fun or part of the point. But it also is like they have to get past, and here's what I think happens. They have to get past the fact that I don't think there's much cooperation or communication happening between the people that made Romulus and the development of this series.
Right.
Otherwise,
really?
maybe they would.
Right.
I just don't think they're.
Right.
I think Noah Hawley's been off in his world doing this, and it's fairly siloed. And maybe there was some designs, or maybe there was some things are going to cross over in an interesting way. But he has more or less said that he's only using the aspects of the franchise that he thinks are useful to his story. And people are taking that to mean he's either ignoring the events of Prometheus and Covenant, or he's just not connecting to those. Whereas Romulus kind of connected to those a little bit, with the imagery. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like the fact that we are getting a lot of the same stuff recycled, right down to the fact that we've got like a little white woman with dark hair as the lead. But it's interesting that she has a synthetic with a child's personality.
Very cool, man.
That feels different. The other thing, I totally agree with you about the containment systems and them realizing it. But the little bit they said this ship has been going to the darkest parts of the galaxy and collecting the most dangerous life forms. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
Cool.
Like, that's the element
feels like
right there.
We might get some other stuff. And also we're getting a different look. Like the latest versions we've seen of the Alien has been like as this science experiment. So if it's something that they find in a different way, I'm just intrigued by the differences you see. I do think that, yes, this show has to get over those hurdles of, in order to feel like it's part of the same world, it has to give you some of that same imagery. But a person who is inclined to say, I've seen this too many times, might just go, oh, yeah, that looks like more alien shit. I don't need this. So I don't know. But I feel like if people watch the whole trailer, you get enough, like Timothy Oliphant's character seems interesting.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I think he's supposed to be a synthetic character, and he seems to be doing all kind of research. So maybe we're going to get a little bit of Michael Fassbender's, nefarious android stuff mixed with something else. I don't know. I just don't think Noah Hawley is going to carelessly make something that feels too much like something else. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure.
But I know what you're saying, Ronald, about the imagery. And in fact, I took that as a sign of like, okay, it's kind of cool that this look fits in with the cinematic feel of the world. But yeah, it I don't know, any franchise that's this long in the tooth can start to seem kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve? I think you said yes sirree when I sent the link to the trailer.
Yeah, man. I mean, like,
Any specific thoughts?
I mean, I definitely everything you guys have said. Ronald's point made at the top is so valid. It's like, but I think that's because especially when it comes to a trailer, like that's what works. Like
Every
for the
time.
franchise, it's like not to say they use a form or a template or whatever, but it's like this is going to happen in every movie because they're like the greatest hits of these kinds of trailers or this kind of franchise. But yeah, the idea just kind of where this falls in the storyline. Your point, John, about it, like the cooperation between these efforts to like kind of keep the franchise going was interesting. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, the cast looks great. I really like Alex Lothar. He was in the trailer quite a bit. I think he was in Andor. He was in Black Mirror, Into the Fucking World. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The kid who's like looks up in the trailer. She's the
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Nimic in Andor, and he has that.
Yeah,
great,
yeah, I like him.
He's the kid who writes the manifesto.
I love this kid.
everything.
Yeah, I'm a fan. So seeing him, I didn't even know he was in it. So it's just like these kind of things you're just learning, and as you're seeing this actual trailer for it, which is great. But yeah, I don't know. The cast is awesome. I am all for anything Alien. I'll at least watch it. But the production looks great. The scope of it looks really cool. Some of like the world shots that this Earth that we're in right now is really slick. Yeah, it's just cool to see an actual trailer for it. I mean, it's kind of crazy that it's only 3 months away, which I guess is
2 months.
not the
Right.
smallest window.
Like
What's
two
that?
and a half months. Well, yeah, it's like
Two.
it's,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
June. Shit. 2 months away. I don't even know what month it is. Um,
Wow, man.
but
Time is
yeah, I'll literally watch anything from Alien, especially when it looks this good. And honestly, I think the timing of this is great, even if it has nothing to do with Romulus, because Romulus was a big win.
Yes.
it
And,
was.
I think Romulus really accomplished doing quite a bit for the franchise. And even with this trailer coming out, reading that like the Romulus sequel starts filming in the fall, it's like Alien is having a moment. And, and then on the other side, so they can start planning accordingly, Predator is having its own moment. So it's like these are two uh, beloved franchises from the 80s and 90s. And now apparently, I mean, they're pretty prevalent. So
I mean, maybe they're in good
this
hands
trailer's
right
really
now.
good. Yeah,
You know what
the
I mean?
trailer's great.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people had problems with Romulus. What's funny is I've heard a lot of people that greatly enjoyed it or have said they enjoyed it. I feel like even those people have settled into this general view that it was too much of a rehash. And I don't know why that happens to movies that do that, but I understand that if people start to say, "Oh, this was just a rehash," or there's nothing new in this, it can kind of taint people's perception overall of a movie. But I feel like the fun of watching that movie and discovering just what they're going to do with it is like that's something that the Alien franchise still has for me, is the wondering exactly how they're going to do it. What's the they always do something different enough in one of these movies that there will be something that's worth sticking around for, So yeah, I think that's something that's hard to maintain. I mean, there's a lot of other franchises that I love that don't get me anywhere near as excited as the idea of more xenomorphs.
Right.
They're still so creepy and scary to me on just this elemental level. And that's something we don't even get that much of a look at. But the creature effects that we saw in the trailer, it looks pretty cinematic. So I don't think I'm really wishing this was a movie. Anywho, so that's coming up. So yes, Mission Impossible. Steve, do you think this is indeed the final reckoning, or will there be further reckonings? How did you feel about the eighth entry in Tom Cruise's franchise?
I liked it. I mean, I didn't love it. I don't know that I loved Dead Reckoning. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably like that one more than this. But it's like I was talking this with our friends, the couple that we do the weekly viewings with, like we do like a weekly Zoom with them every Friday night, and like they go to the movies, more frequently recently, and we talk about them a lot. And it's like they saw it before me, and like their overall reaction was still positive, but it was like there's a weird like there's a it felt like there's a weird like it didn't hit it out of the park, and it didn't really know how far back it had to go in its attempt to wrap up the series. Like, there I would say like
Yeah.
when I talked to them after I saw it, kind of telling them because they were asking me like, well, what did you think? And it was like it really did feel to me, especially like the first third of the film, like there was an overt like retooling going on, like where they were, whether in the wake of Dead Reckoning or in production problems or whatever that caused this movie to cost as much as it did to make, beyond the COVID
Hmm.
stuff too. Like granted, like it was made
Right.
during, that time. Um
Yeah, that hurt this movie a lot. Like I
it
think
did.
that
Yeah, it's like that really
I
it
mean, not just
really
the
felt it.
last one and this one, you know,
Yeah,
like
like you really could feel that like this idea or this story probably was a movie,
hmm
and it was broken apart for whatever motivation, whatever reasons, for more set pieces, big action stunts, whatever. And to say the action stunts are phenomenal. Like
hmm
you can say whatever you feel about the movie, you could hate this film, which I did not at all, but you would still walk away and say like, wow, like there's nothing, there's no, I feel like it's not even a matter of opinion. Like it's just, if you understand what a stunt is and an action set piece, any of that stuff, it's just, you could say maybe they go on too long, which my friend had an opinion that it went on too long. But I mean, I just think that but there was still an acknowledgement there. Like that was really impressive. So as a whole, it's kind of middle tier, maybe even lower tier for me overall in my Mission Impossible rankings, because of the fact that I felt like it was too stretched out. And when you stretch it out too thin, you got to find stuff to support the middle. And that stuff that they used to support the middle felt kind of retroactive and was like, oh, we'll go back and grab pieces from here and from there and tie it to other events and other movies, which I don't think was ever the intention. Or at least not as strongly reliant as it was, in this final film, which I don't think it's the final film, clearly. But how long it in between movies, who knows? Uh, but yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very entertaining. I did find a couple of the emotional beats worked pretty well on me. Um,
I was
but there
wondering
was
about that.
but there was just something that I think is probably one of the weaker screenplays of the whole series, actually. Um,
I would agree with that for
there's
sure.
Yeah.
just there's just something just felt like way too much exposition dump, which is, again, is supporting that, like we got to explain what's happening because it doesn't make any sense, and
Yeah,
that
it's like scene after scene of people telling Ethan Hunt that like even his mistakes were
yeah,
good things, which is some of that I liked. Like I liked
yeah,
the guy and
yeah,
his wife coming back. I liked that storyline. I don't think we needed more than that as far as the look back, though. I think there was
yes,
way too much characters. Just again, there's the conversation, repeated scenes of like explaining why we have to trust Ethan Hunt or him
yeah,
begging to be
yeah,
trusted or whatever. It just felt so
yeah,
it felt redundant in that sense. I've heard people
yeah,
say you could like chop out an hour of the
yeah,
movie and it would be fine. I don't know if I quite agree that you could chop out that much, but I do know what people are saying when they say that, which is that there's just a lot of lag in setting up those
yeah.
moments that
It
maybe they
is.
felt like
It
they needed
is.
to do. And that's okay. So now we're getting into the question that I can now ask you now that you've seen the movie, and you've kind of halfway answered this already. Like, do you feel like that is a weakness of the script or of the story, or do you think that is just a because of the way this movie was put together, that it feels kind of cobbled together in this
Right.
strange way? And some of those things that could be like cinematic stylistic choices where the camera's just cutting around a scene and it's kind of random, some of those moments feel like, oh, this is a kaleidoscopic approach to putting together a movie, and other times it feels like they just used the footage they had and they went and shot stuff. And I mean, so what do you think's going on there? Do you feel like this movie was cobbled together like, as best they could, or do you think that the plan, or do you feel like that's part of the style of the movie? Because I feel like that was happening in the last one too, where
There's
you didn't always know if Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, and Tom Cruise were ever actually in the same room together from the way a scene would be shot.
Yeah, no, totally feel that. And that was present, I think, in the last film too. But Yeah, I do feel like it feels very cobbled together. I feel like even the fact that you hear like people announcing that they're added to the cast like in the last year and a half,
Right.
talking about that, like the whole
That's a good
sequence with
point.
like Hannah Waddingham's character and the whole sequence with uh all the Nick Offerman stuff with the president and like the bunker at the end and like his character asking for the gun and like whatever happens like that all felt like just added to the story that really didn't need to be in the movie at all, like
Mhm.
in my opinion. Like I
Yeah.
feel like all of those like extra set pieces and plot devices that were planted to show the urgency and the timing and like how it just all happened to end at the same time, it just plays into to that Mission Impossible trope. But I mean, I think that those things really felt added on to me and just like a way to put more characters from other movies back
Hmm.
into a scene together and add new characters with people that you might recognize. And I don't know, yeah, just a lot of that just didn't work for me. Like it really distracted from like the cuts to those scenes really distracted from the main stuff with like the core cast that were together,
Hmm.
in the scenes like towards the end of the film. Uh and honestly that's a lot of just like what didn't work for me. I mean, it didn't really make me like the film less, but I mean, because I think the film as it is and like as a whole, I kind of have a vibe on what it is and how I feel about it. But and the reason I say it like that is because I don't feel like if you take that stuff out, that this movie is a whole lot better. Because I feel like the dissection between the two films, like it did feel like there wasn't enough there to make two movies that are 2.5 hours or more.
That's
Like,
crazy that when you put it that way, because the
yeah,
story really does not need, like, you could almost imagine that the last story, the way the last one ended, you needed maybe one more action sequence
exactly.
to kill, like you needed the submarine sequence, really.
Yes, you needed the submarine. That's it.
And the rest is just extra stuff
Yeah, it's
around
just
that.
like you get two big set pieces. These two big action sequences. You get
I mean, the biplane thing is astounding from a
That's
stunt
what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
standpoint.
Like you can't.
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
criticizing
you're
the
right. You're
action.
right. I know you're
It's
not. I'm
it's
just
like
talking
give
about the
me
runtime.
you
If the
you could
other
just have a
movie,
whole movie that's just strung together of five different action set pieces and it would probably be fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like in these movies, but you can't rely on that because I think that's what makes like Fallout and Ghost Protocol um work so well is that the story is like so linear and so strong, and
hmm
the
Yeah.
characters that you meet that are new, they're in the scenes they need to be in to further the story or to add to the action, and they don't feel as like superfluous like a lot of these additional scenes did in this one, for
yeah.
me at least. That said, Tramel Tillman in the sub stuff, all that stuff I thought was awesome. I thought he's great. His little scenes, with Tom Cruise, worked out really well. Uh,
Mister.
Mister, I love the line where he's like, "If you came to me thinking I'm like gonna poke the bear," he's like, "What?" I don't even know what the line
Yeah.
was, but his delivery was great. He was like, "All right," or whatever he said. Like I was
You
like,
got on the right
"That's
submarine or
yeah,
something
you got
like
on the
that.
right
Yeah,
one," or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
um,
No, but but that also hints at something. You could see that character having his own little, even though it doesn't have a lot to do in the movie. There's enough going on there that he's actually kind of interesting, in his own way, as opposed to, uh, what you said, where certain things are threaded through, like Hannah Waddingham, which just, not that she's terrible or anything. It's just
No,
no
she's
had it's like a very, like a functional role they needed somebody to play that could have been just a character we cut to a couple times, but instead they plop somebody real in it. And I think that's kind of, you're getting at this idea that, like, Tom Cruise, and we said this before, we think he loves actors.
oh
We
yeah.
yeah,
think that he likes adding some of these people to the cast. Like Nick Offerman and her are both the kind of people you add. Even Tremel Tillman are like people you add if you know they have a little buzz around them and that audiences are going to like to see this person pop up.
for
Some of
sure.
those instincts are good, but it felt a little overstuffed in that way.
And I gotta say also, like, as much as I love her, the Haley Atwell stuff just did not click for me in this movie. Like, I feel like their connection and their bond, or like their maybe not romance from, I don't know, like it tiptoed around it pretty delicately, I guess. But I love her, and I felt like she was really good in Dead Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, something about her performance or just the way that she was used in this film. was like so on the nose, like silly to me, and in some scenes I really just felt like it was silly.
Mm.
Well, that opening scene with her with the pickpocketing was, I thought, pretty silly.
It's so silly. Well, that only exists so that they go like, "You're the one that's going to grab it because you know what they say about fucking pickpockets. It's all about timing." Like
Yes.
that was so like we
Yep.
got to give her a thing in this movie, and it's that. And I mean, she's worth more than that. I mean, she did a lot more in Dead Reckoning that I thought was way better. Um, and honestly, like I'm still kind of bitter about Ilsa. You know,
Yeah.
like I kind of felt like that was the one that should have walked off with him.
Do you know why though? Have you read about or heard
No,
about why?
no,
Rebecca Ferguson said when this movie started up, said, "Get me out of this thing as early as possible."
really.
Yeah, because she knows the production style and the way these
Oh,
movies are made is like a multi-year thing, and that
Oh.
Tom Cruise obsesses over things and all this
oh
stuff, and she
wow,
was just like, I don't want to be locked down. And someone pointed out, she's made whatever Silo and some other
seasons.
movies, and like
Yeah.
she's done other stuff since then. So she was like,
Wow.
see, but like, hey, had a fun time, great, but like didn't want to be locked in for
That's crazy.
another round of this, But I
To
think
lose
most
someone
people
of
agree.
her.
She if anyone was going to carry, like,
That's
okay,
it. Say it.
folks,
Say it.
folks, we're going to get into spoilers now.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the part where we'll talk about what does or does not happen in this movie. If they were going to kill Ethan Hunt,
Yep.
she's the only person they've introduced in the whole series, I really think, who you could say I would totally be
Hand it
confident
over.
going to see a Mission Impossible movie starring Rebecca Ferguson. I know it couldn't be
100%
the
agree.
same stunt-driven thing, but I bet she's pretty daring with what she'll do. So I bet that we would get some pretty cool physical stunts, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't be the same series. But as far as the character and the type of performer she is and the type of chemistry that she has with people, I think Rebecca Ferguson would be really watchable as the center of this kind of thing. And in a way that I do agree, I think Haley Atwell is fantastic. I don't think that like somehow between the last movie and this one, she did become more of like a simple character or something. At the end of the last movie, it's like she's signed on to the team and she's embracing this responsibility of like what it means to join this team. In this
Yeah.
movie, it feels like somehow in a few months she's become like equal to Ethan Hunt in almost every way.
Yes.
Except for maybe some of the fighting skills. Like they do present it as she's more like tactical and he's more muscle. But like, Ronald, what did you think of all that? And I guess anything else? I don't know if you had any other thoughts about what Steve and I were just talking about, which is kind of the idea of how characters are moved in and out of this series, and if in this movie we had a bunch of necessary characters or some kind of like every character had kind of an extra version standing around
Yeah.
with them.
It was a mishmash of stuff. I mean, it was a bunch of ideas kind of thrown together, and I think that's what I was kind of getting at when we were first talking about it. How it kind of felt like I just felt like a bunch of stuff was happening. I do really enjoy Haley Atwell, but I know what you mean. Like I felt like she was really something different to Ethan in the first film than in the second film, and she kind of became this like, hey, dirty pickpocket, pickpocket.
Yeah.
It's like she became that kind of and I don't know why that happened to her. Like I thought she had a lot more skills in that. I thought she was also like crafty at getting away, and not just that she was a dirty thief, but that felt like that was all they were using her for. They were like, hey, dirty thief, you need to take this USB drive out, dirty thief, and then swap it out real quick, dirty, because all you do is steal. And I was like that. I thought in the first movie she was like, I thought they had a connection and they were romantic, and then she was just kind of like a prop in the second one. Um, I did really love what's the martial arts lady,
Palm
Palm pun
Clemente.
intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she stood out more than Haley in this one. Like she was a lot more dynamic. She had heart. Seeing her with Simon Pegg was really cool.
Their
I love
chemistry
it.
was great because of the little beat where what is it he says to her when it looks like he might die and he needs somebody to perform like field surgery on him,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he says what is it? Are you a doctor, or is anybody a doctor or whatever? But she says, I'm a killer, not a surgeon or whatever. And he says, close enough, or what? Just the idea that like
Yeah.
he makes her sort of save his life in that
Yeah.
moment. And I think that that was a great gift for her, because she is a person who kind of thinks like, okay, what am I good for? I'm really
Yeah.
just a killer. I mean, again, not a huge character arc, but I thought it was kind of cool to get that little extra bit of meat on that character, that she sort of, you can tell that she wants to be more than just a weapon you can point at somebody.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool thing. The pairing there was good. I really liked Simon Pegg in this. I'm glad they
So
made the choice. Here we go, folks. Once again, the warning was in place before, but I'm glad they made the choice not to kill him. But I also would have accepted his character dying. Same with, I'll say it, same with Ethan. There's a moment where they had me believing that maybe they were about to kill Ethan at the end, and I would have been fine with the movie going that bold or doing something that interesting, in the way that I'm not surprised that they didn't. But Steve, were you at all surprised that
Um,
that they
I,
didn't kill him? Did you think they would? Did you think they should? Like what? Like, is that what makes you say there's definitely, this isn't the last one for sure? Is that he's still alive, or do you think there's still another thing about getting this kind of production going, like that? Like maybe this is the last movie of this type that we're going to see for at least a while, right?
for
I
a
mean,
while, for
it's
sure.
not like they can rush out another one. But you're saying the door's open, or how do you feel about more? What should they have done?
No, I think the door's definitely going to be open. I think it's going to be a while till it happens. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know the final numbers, but I mean, for Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, I don't think because of their production budgets, really, at least with the theatrical piece, like that they really made a lot of money, which is a big problem. Um, like after all is said and done, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because of the COVID stuff, the reshoots, all this other stuff that happened, like I think these production budgets are just insane. Uh, so yes, I do think that this franchise is still open to be continued at some point. When and how and with who, not sure. But I don't think they would ever really stop making a movie like this or a franchise like this, especially because it'll still make a decent amount of money. But
yeah.
what Tom Cruise's involvement in it is, I'm not sure. But I mean, you got to remember, like, this was his attempt to find a franchise, and this, back in the '90s, and this is not something that I think he's going to truly let go of, even from a
Mhm.
production standpoint. So if there's
Yeah.
involvement in what way, I don't know, but I think that, there's probably many ways to go about continuing the franchise at some point. It's weird. Like I kind of feel like it's so odd. Like I feel like there was like a crescendo happening, like when Macquarie came on board. Like there
Mm.
was more of like a streamlined approach to the franchise, and it almost became like I'm almost concerned that it became more of like a echo chamber for the two of them, where like
Mm-hmm.
everything made it in and everything is a great idea and you're right, I'm right. It's like even listening to them talk in interviews, it's like there's a weird vibe about the way they talk about this film and even the last film, where there's like this, I don't even know the right say this the right way, but like it's almost like taken too seriously when they talk
Mm.
about it. And I think that comes through a little bit because I think maybe there needs to be a look at this and say, well, there's a different way this can be done, that could still be as effective
Yeah.
and still hit the right beats for what the franchise is.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope they do that because, again, I would love to see more Mission Impossible films. I love the setup, I love the idea, and it's a proven thing. So I don't think they'll stop making them. Again, Tom's involvement, I don't know. Ethan Hunt's involvement, I don't know. But
So at the end of the movie, did they take away the internet? Is that what? Like did the system completely crash? It all went away, or is it just that now he has the power? Like now he's the smartest man in the world with the access to do whatever in his
I don't.
pocket.
Yeah,
Like
I don't think they took the internet. I think that was the solution that they found by putting it into that optical drive,
yeah.
like trapping it there.
So the entity, we haven't really talked about this, but the AI villain of the film which is another kind of silly aspect in some
Again,
ways.
silly. Yeah, like
But
it's
you
just like
could buy it. You could buy it. I mean, in some sense, it would have worked. It's just they stop and ooh and ah over it a little too much for it, you not to notice how silly it is. But like the idea that the entity, this is the way they keep talking about it. I don't know. I do
yeah,
think that maybe this shouldn't have sustained two movies. As far as what you're saying about the series, I do think it kind of peaked with the 4, 5, and 6, and I think that
yeah,
like
yeah. That's what
I
I'm
don't know that
saying.
they could get back to that point really, but I do think they could give me those moments where I feel like I'm being swept along and the music is kicking in and I know the stunt's starting up and there's no one else that does it like this.
Hmm.
But it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel as assured, and that's why I compared it to the Fast and the Furious series. In a sense that like as they get more over the top, they do sort of lose a little bit of that ability to really wow you. And is it
Yeah.
maybe important to have different talent coming in and a new director that Tom Cruise has to kind of wrestle with? Is it maybe what you said,
Yeah,
the Ralph McQuarrie, as competent as he is, as responsible as he is for the heights, is he maybe the wrong guy to keep this thing
I think
going
so.
in that
Probably.
same
I don't know.
mode?
Yeah.
Ronald, what were you about to say?
I think you have a better idea of the dangers of AI than this script did. And I can't have you tell me how dangerous it is and then show me a chart of the world's weapons. And that's the only thing. It didn't really present enough danger for us
Right.
and for Ethan physically for us to really understand what this thing was. You know what I mean? Like if it took on like say if say if it wanted Ethan to do something. It's like, look, he put on the mask, and the mask was like, I need you to go to this place to deliver us for something. Not telling him why. And when he's like, I think it's trying to trap me. And then AI starts controlling things around it. So you're like, okay, if AI gets out of control, technology gets lost in this like grid of like this thing that kind of controls itself. It says, "Oh, Steve doesn't want to stop right here, so I'm gonna fucking crash his car right now, or I'm gonna make this light change so that something cracked, or I'm gonna start taking money out of his account, or you know what I mean, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna steal John's art, or it's like that's at no point during this movie did I feel like this thing really was a threat in the way that I don't want to hear about why it's a threat. Show me why it's a threat. And I think that's why this script was shitty in that way. If the villain was AI, show us why AI is a threat. Show us
Yeah.
why societally why it's a threat. Because who was the threat when they were in the bathroom and the man was cocking his arm back like a fucking gun? A big dude in front of him. That was the threat. You understood how big he was because he was punching through the fucking wall. You
Yeah.
Right.
understood visually how dangerous he was. And I
Yeah.
think that at no point did you know how dangerous AI was? I mean, I
You know
don't know
what?
how dangerous it was.
Only through the sort of like over the top aspect of
Missiles.
nuclear desolation is about to happen. But
For
you're kind of
sure.
getting at this, Ronald. Like what you're getting at is exactly this, that threat. Like, and I always am the person who says this thing about this type of series, and I think they could. But maybe the question is, could they? Couldn't they go small? Like, couldn't they
Yeah.
have a
Can they go
film where
small
it's a
on me?
mission going in and they've got to extract somebody and they got to get to an airfield on time, or they're going to be stuck in some war zone and the government can't extract them after a certain moment and they miss their time and now they need to bring in Ethan Hunt? I mean, couldn't they do like
Sure.
that kind of movie and have it actually work better in the way that we're talking here, where you could still have the amazing stunts, but you
Yeah.
wouldn't have to have an AI villain that's taking over the world? You could just have like, we've got to get past this impossible mission. We got to get over this security system that can't be beat. We got to get out of this prison
Yeah.
camp that can't be escaped. Is that not maybe more interesting at this point than the
I
world's going to end if Ethan Hunt doesn't manage to do
yes.
everything right on time?
I think you're right. And all I'm saying is whatever it tackles, it has to tackle it in an intelligent way now because we understand what things do now. Like people are using AI every day to write to type. What if everything you type to AI went to somebody you didn't want it to go to? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just give us an idea of how the danger, or like a small idea, kind of like that. What if there was a version of a guy on the other side that was kind of like a Ethan's kind of, he maybe was in training camp with him at one point, and he's just like, I hate Ethan. And
They
I've been in,
tried to do that with Gabriel in this
they
movie,
did, and it
but it
didn't
didn't. It
work.
didn't click. I like Isai Morales, but he didn't. He didn't like
He wasn't
overpower
physical enough.
Tom Cruise on screen. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you never really felt like he was a threat to Ethan Hunt.
I'm trying to think of somebody that could have been like a presence for him.
Well, I think the
That fell
whole like
short, man.
wait, who?
It fell short with Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah.
I felt like the stuff that worked the best for me, at least villain wise, and I think this is a little bit of what you're saying is the whole idea of like the syndicate and like Solomon Lane. Like that almost is like an
Yeah,
opposite Ethan Hunt.
yeah,
Same way MI6, went rogue, creates this thing. It's like the opposite of what we
yeah,
follow Ethan for. Like I think, Sean Harrison, that character in Rogue Nation and Fallout, I think that's what make those two of the best mission films, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a grounded enough, it's not too overwhelming, it's not too high concept. It's kind of enough in the lane of what makes sense for spy thriller action films
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
without being too heady and like this just gets too over the top, which I felt like this was
Yeah.
too.
Solomon Lane also had a great voice.
Oh,
It was
totally.
like
I love
not
him.
it was like not mean enough and not loud enough, but it was just like his threats sounded so scary because of that.
Because but because like he's as basically competent and as confident as Ethan Hunt
Yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah. He didn't have
but
to be really
he
like,
worked pretty well. And obviously Owen Davian in Mission 3 was great. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
yeah, yeah.
Those are my two favorites.
I was going to say we should rank the Mission Impossible movies, but I still haven't watched 3 yet. So I guess after I've watched,
you should
3,
watch 3. 3
Yeah.
3 is
No, I
kind of
think I
what
should.
right the ship. Like
Yeah.
got that awesome bridge sequence. Yeah, it's 3 is and an awesome opening sequence. 3 is really good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know bits and pieces of it, but I don't. It's one of those things where those things that bits and pieces of, and you figure like I kind of know it, but then you occasionally will hear some piece where you're like, oh, I guess I don't know. Like I don't know how it still is a Mission Impossible movie. The things I know about it feel very small and intimate. You know what I mean? So like I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on that I have no concept of. But
It's kind of crazy to think about the run, even before it gets to Macquarie, that it's De Palma, Wu,
Yeah.
Abrams, Bird. Like
Yeah.
this is some, let's go. Like these are like top-notch filmmakers, and all, especially when you get up to Bird, like they all have a take on what the film is. And that's kind of what was so interesting about those first 4 films, is that they do feel like different kinds of Ethan Hunt Mission Impossible films. There's clearly like style choices.
Yeah, totally.
And
maybe
story
Tom Cruise
choices.
is a little more challenged when you bring in an established director like that. And I'm not knocking at all what you're talking about. The earlier Macquarie efforts were to me the high points of the series. So
totally,
I'm not really complaining about that. But it is weird for it to become like one guy's, like, for who's the guy who started directing all the Harry Potter movies after a while?
Lowry.
No, David Yates or
Yates. David Yates. David Yates.
Is that his name? Anyway, but like who had a very competent style. Yeah. And like a very clean style and sometimes an elegant style. And it seemed right for that kind of storytelling. But it wasn't the same experiment it was before that of like seeing who they could get. And like, oh, maybe this person will do it. Maybe that person will do it.
Correct.
And I don't know that those movies ever really stepped outside of Prisoner of Azkaban, which really felt like a sort of auteur piece in some ways. But at any rate, I think that what you want with a franchise is a sure hand who can bring in that style. But it is kind of cool to picture, like, who else could it be if not, Ralph McQuarrie over and over again? Maybe he could.
Christopher McQuarrie.
Christopher McQuarrie. I keep saying Ralph McQuarrie.
Yeah, that's okay.
Ralph McQuarrie, okay, anyone who's listening and knows, Ralph McQuarrie is the illustrator and painter who was like did all the Star Wars designs early on. So if anybody's listening and they know who that is, if you find like the early design paintings for Star Wars that they sometimes stuck to, and sometimes they'll go back to now and pull a design directly from one of those in one of the new shows or movies. But
that's
so
cool.
yes, and Ralph McQuarrie, that illustrator and painter, I'm going to tell you, Ronald, is not the same guy who has been writing and directing the Mission Impossible movies. Just in case
is this a Kirby situation where there is any relation between
no?
McQuarrie?
You know what? It's not right. It's not a Kirby situation, because in that situation I was correct about Bruno Kirby being in.
Oh, no. I'm asking if there's a relationship between the two.
No, I don't think there was. But
one's a father and son, we read. And is this a uncle cousin situation, or
That'd be crazy.
I'd be shocked. You know what? Let's find out. Ralph,
you're about to have your mind blown right now.
Related to Christopher? No, Ralph McQuarrie and Christopher McQuarrie are not related. Ralph is a concept artist known for his work on the original Star Wars trilogy, while Christopher is a screenwriter and director, particularly known for his work on Mission Impossible
there we go.
The Usual Suspects. So, however, Christopher McQuarrie is rumored to have done a lot of work on Rogue One, so there is a.
I read that. Yep.
But yes, no, I've been saying the wrong name this whole time. But I'm only nerds who know about Ralph McQuarrie were really bothered by that. They were just thinking maybe John knows Christopher McQuarrie's middle name. But I mean, I still like him as a director, and I guess I'd be excited to see whatever they would do. But if they were to announce another one with him at the helm, it would feel a little bit like, okay, like I see what you're doing. You know, like I don't even know at this point what that would look like. But I just go small.
Their relationship is a little weird to me. Like, I don't know. I admire and am in awe of like these successful, impressive, encouraging, creative relationships that you see filmmakers and actors or whatever role or function they're in. But there definitely is a point where you're like, diminishing returns. Should we take a break? Like, Go, Christopher McQuarrie, go make something besides Top Gun Maverick 2. Tom Cruise, go make something besides Top Gun Maverick 2. Like, you want to see, and like Tom Cruise is doing, a couple other movies, going back with Doug Liman and doing stuff with like, what is it, Inarito film. Like do that. Like, I need him, like put him with an auteur who's like gonna maybe make him do something special. That's not just the big stunt that he's become known for. Which, again, I love that about him. It's one of the reasons I love Tom Cruise, and it's an actor as a performer. But there's so much more. Like, there's a phase of his that we haven't even hit yet. And even last week, talking about Magnolia, it's like there's a performer that he's a great actor, I think, like legitimately. And, I want to see some of that effort. I would be happy to, see him do movies like that for a while. Or get him in we've talked about this before, like get him in a Tarantino film. Or get him in something special like that. With a filmmaker who has a real, like, he's going to be in that sandbox for a little bit, not the Tom Cruise sandbox, like where everybody wants to come and hang out, which it feels a little bit like that's what's happening with McQuarrie, to me at least.
When I heard that, the whole Tom Cruise wants to work with Michael B. Jordan, I'm like, will Tom Cruise be in something different?
Right. That's what you want to see, right? I mean,
I don't know.
Like, cool. I don't know, but maybe it's a good point because like he's so controlling and so in control of what he does and how he does it that I don't know what that looks like. But I mean, again, I think he already made the Inarito film. I've heard him talking about it on like the PR tour for this film.
Inarito's apparently been blown away by Tom Cruise and said some pretty complimentary things about directing him.
Yeah,
he constantly brings new things to the table, and he's constantly surprising him. And he's also referred to the film as a comedy, which is like, okay, whatever. But like, yeah, we'll see. I'm up for that. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, the log line: the most powerful man in the world causes a disaster and embarks on a mission to prove that he is the savior of humanity. Sounds like the perfect movie for Tom Cruise, right?
It sounds like a joke about a part that Tom Cruise would take.
But an awesome cast, man. That movie looks awesome. No, Tom Cruise,
loaded.
Jesse Plemons, John Goodman, Riz Ahmed, Emma Darcy, Michael Stolberg. I mean, this is an awesome cast. I mean, and it's flagged as an adventure comedy. Sounds cool. Like, I want to see that movie. Like, that's next fall. Well, 2026, fall 2026. But, yeah. All right. Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning. Not so final. We'll see when it reckons back around. When do you reckon it'll come back around, John? 5 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought, would be
Yeah.
kind of based on what you said. If there is going to be an attempt, and if this is just something that it's occasionally, it's going to be a boulder that Tom Cruise rolls up a hill because he wants to do another one. You know, that's going to be maybe more the impetus behind it rather than the market. And like, these are expensive films, and they haven't made
Yeah.
as much lately as they wish, but there's still kind of a fondness for them. So I could see him getting the ball rolling on one in the future. I almost see it being that next wave, Steve, where he does do the I'm the older mentor of a younger team, or I'm the gray-haired guy that they come and find when they need to, you know, whatever. The same, whatever ego trip type stuff that he likes to do. But I could see them leaning into, like, maybe take a break and come back and lean a little bit more into the fact that he's aged, rather than seemingly trying to deny that he's aged, which is kind of what you've been talking about with the hair and the, you know, the overall feel of this. But it did feel like they were trying to put the close on something. I felt like it was a little bit cautious that they left. That Luther was the only real casualty, the only death that really made it seem like an ending, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not too surprised that they didn't just knock them all down. There's worse things to do, or more interesting things to do, I should say, than just killing people. So.
Anything else you guys want to mention that you've watched, or before we wrap up?
No.
Nothing special. More.
I did have this thought since we were talking about War of the Roses. I kept thinking, like, who would I put in my new version of War of the Roses if I wanted it to be as
You mean
nasty?
besides Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman?
Yeah, if I was going to do my version, right. And I thought about how I feel like Glenn Howerton and Caitlin Olsen could knock it out of the fucking park.
Oh my god, dude. Yes. I mean, that's probably been some episode of It's Always Sunny, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
I mean,
it feels like it must have been, right.
Oh, I just want to say, Sinners came home, the digital. If you buy digitally, it's like buying a DVD, man. It is packed full of features. It
That's
has
great.
an hour of extras and 20 minutes of
mm.
cut scenes. So I'm digging into it. I haven't even finished it yet. It's so much stuff. It's like a cool thing to feel like buying things digitally feels like it's worth it. You don't feel like you're leaving empty-handed because there's so much content.
Yeah, I love that when they do.
Yeah.
I remember well, it was one of the ones during COVID. Palm Springs did that. I think they
Mm.
had something special. It might even a bit. That was a different thing, like
I
where it was
remember that.
streaming, but it
Yes.
had like a commentary track and
Yeah. It had all those
beh-
extra things that came with like
yeah, that was
interviews
like a
and stuff.
Hulu thing. But I was like, that was really cool. Like
It's cool, man.
if you have it digitally, whether it's a digital rental purchase, whatever, even in the streaming era, that kind of stuff, man, I miss that stuff. Like I
Yeah.
watched Palm Springs with the commentary track because like you don't get to do that.
You don't get to do it, man.
And it's like you don't even hear people talking about that anymore. It's just
It's
it's
so
so cool.
it's so funny. Apple has that stuff, and they don't put. I mean, so do
Yeah.
other streamers, but Apple's really tries to make it very similar to the
Yeah.
Blu-ray sort of experience, the DVD
Mhm.
experience.
Right.
It's funny they don't talk about that a lot. It's almost
It
like a
is.
word of mouth thing. Like I use the Apple TV. Even if you don't have an Apple TV, you can get the Apple TV app, and it still functions the
It's
same
there
way.
still. Right.
Really cool, man.
It's
So
interesting. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I got to check out some of the special stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, it feels kind of exciting that, again, there's like a second wave of people talking about Sinners
yeah,
Mhm.
being
yeah.
available with those features and stuff like that. And then there'll be another when it comes out on physical, but
I pre-ordered the steel book.
Steelbook.
God
I,
bless Soundgarden. That was
oh yeah, that's cool. They still sell. You still can go there to get new titles. Most of the
yes.
big ones. They used to carry everything under the sun. It's not quite like
Yeah.
it used to be, but you can still
Yeah.
order stuff. I just wanted to say I love the Kugler quote that's going around where he said that he envisioned Sinners as a self-contained thing. Like all this talk about
Yeah.
He
sequels
says
and
like
spin-offs.
he sees it as a full meal.
Yeah, right. And
Mm.
I love
Love
that.
that. Yeah.
That's the intention and the desire, and you can see how much that came through in the final piece. Like that
Yeah.
people love is that it does feel complete, and it doesn't feel like it needs ancillary things to make it work. I mean, maybe 20 minutes of deleted scenes or whatever, it's kind of interesting to watch, but that's interesting in that, that brings a smile in the sense that it feels old school to be able to watch some deleted scenes. But to then be like, oh, we got to get this story. Like, I feel like people need to get past this thing where they think that because something was less vague, that that's something we need to explore. That's like, oh, they left this open, that must mean there's going to be this or that. Like, we don't really need, like, sometimes you need that one line of dialogue that leaves a little mystery. So I like that. At least that's his intention. That doesn't mean he won't come back to it. But what did he say too? That he's lived in franchise land, or he phrased it somehow, but he basically said that he's been in that franchise space for a lot of his career, and he wanted to make something that was not that. And I love that for him and for us. So
yeah, man,
totally. Well, that's an episode.
That certainly is.
That is what they call an episode. Movieshmovie.com is the website. If you want to hop on there to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice, that would be great. You can listen also right on the website, youtube.com/Movie Schmovie podcast if you want the feast for your eyes. And you can also just listen there as well.
I like that. The feast for your eyes.
And you can take bite size, or you can go for the full meal. I'm sticking with the Ryan Coogler thing. You have the full meal, and we also have little appetizers if you want to watch the shorts. If you could subscribe and hit the bell to get notified of new episodes coming out there, it'd be really appreciated. We'll be back next week to talk more about my pick, which was, again, The Assessment for required viewing. John will be able to talk about the new How to Train Your Dragon release. And I might go see Ballerina this weekend, so hopefully we can talk about that too. So
I'm also going to try to see Bring Her Back. That's one.
Perfect.
I want to see that too. Yeah.
The From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. We'll talk about that. It's the longest. Like, you see it on IMDb like that. Like, what? Come on.
Steve, you gave me a great idea for like one of those sound-alike franchises, John Rick.
John Rick back again.
Like, what? You want to see the new John Rick movie? Yeah, I love
Ballerina.
John Rick. Okay, cool. Let's go.
So we'll be talking about a lot of new stuff next
year.
But not John Wick. That's part of Schmovie Studios, clearly. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, you made our day. Thanks.
Bye.
Woof.